everyone. Mark, Brandice, Shay, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to getting into creative collaboration with you all. To start, Mark, we're here talking creative collaboration, so first off, I have to touch on your Cat's Eye campaign, which has gone...
Have to. Touch on it.
You've got to. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Well, I think we can't have any conversation these days without talking about Cat's Eye and seeing it. I think everything starts with a big idea for the season. We knew we wanted to talk about denim. We saw this trend in low-rise emerging, so we kind of had a story, and we wanted youthful energy to tell that story. And we've been following Dream Academy, Cat's Eye, and really loved what they were doing and loved their energy. And we're kind of following them and thought that they would be great for the campaign. And then a series of other things happened while we were going to launch that seemed like it was going to have a new type of energy on it as well. And so we were really excited about it. We were excited about the behind-the-scenes storytelling, about the choreography and Robbie, and we wanted to shoot in new ways, in ways that took the heritage of Gap and things that we have done and the energy around music and dance and bring it to life in a way that felt really current and relevant and with youthful energy.
And so when did that partnership start?
That starts months in advance to work through music and talent and choreography. So it was months in the making.
So I understand this was Gap's most watched video, 400 million total views, 8 billion total impressions in the first 3 days. Wow. Curious if you have any updated metrics you can share, and also what do you attribute to its success?
I think that your metrics are accurate for the launch. I think we're up to somewhere around 570 million views.
Wow.
The amount we post, like if you're scrolling and you are in the algorithm, the amount you see of people with their cats doing the dance. Mechanics and Pennsylvania, a chef in Peru. So it's going to be, it's definitely taken the internet by storm.
And just for context, how does that compare to other Gap campaigns?
This has outpaced anything that we've seen, and this is, we often will compare ourselves to the quote-unquote heyday, and our job is to continue to reinvent the brand and innovate and drive newness, and this is a high water mark. So this is sort of a nice stake in the ground on having brand relevance.
So Mark, you joined Gap as its brand president in 2020, but the collabs didn't really start rolling out with a ton of momentum until early 2024. Can you talk a little bit about how the company evolved from when you started to the present?
Yes, when I first came in, the business was in trouble. So I think the first couple years were the heavy lifting, the closing stores and markets and selling markets to partners and all of things that are not the most pleasant things to be doing, cutting the number of SKUs we had, improving quality and reinvesting in quality. And then as we were beginning to get our footing and our own storytelling, we started the collab energy. And I think when we're innovating in our own brand, innovating on the icons, things that we're famous for, we started turning to collab partners to come in, and while we had our own stories, we could tell these other stories with them and add to the energy of the brand, add to the innovation. What you have people like, who were up, Brandice and Shay, what we could do with their innovation and their ideas are adding energy to the brand. So that started in the last couple of years.
So let's get into some of the collaborations we have here with the exceptional talent we have on stage, Shay, Brandice. Mark, how did these collaborations come about with Béis and with Harlem's Fashion Row?
They all come about in different ways. And we just want to always use this filter of, is it new, is it unexpected, and is it cool? We have some slightly more corporate metrics, but that's the real metric. And I've known Brandice for a bunch of years, actually. Yeah. So since 2018, we've been close, and we have had conversations over the years, and we just struck fire on wanting to make sure we partnered. And Shay and I were introduced. I was a huge fan of Béis, and Shay and I were introduced, and I think that's that's how our partnership started.
I may have stalked you a little bit too, though. Let's be honest.
Listen, I have to write that down.
I had a couple ways of getting to you, so yeah. I mean, Gap has always been a place that I have loved to shop since I was little. I mentioned it in some of the press when we launched that like Park Royal was my store, and like to actually now have our collaboration stores was amazing. But I think because we both stand for essentials, Gap in fashion and Béis in travel, it really did make sense.
Yeah. And Brandice, what was valuable about the Gap partnership for you and Harlem's Fashion Row?
I think it was timing. We launched that collaboration in February, and it was not marketed as a Black History Month collaboration. It was just launched as a beautiful collaboration with 5 incredible designers who happen to be designers of color. And when people saw kind of how it looked in the stores, how it was marketed, I think so much respect from that. I mean, we had over 254, I believe, organic posts that tagged that collaboration, which resulted in 2.1 million organic impressions. And you can't buy that type of authentic momentum. So it was super impactful for us as a company at Harlem's Fashion Row, for the designers who, all of them, I think their reach all like tripled from that collaboration. But then also just people were just genuinely excited. And I feel like the people own that collaboration. Like we put it out into the world, but once we put it out there, literally consumers owned it.
And Shay, can you expand on the appeal on your side as well? I mean, Béis is really disrupting the travel space. What was the appeal in bringing Gap into your brand?
I think just taking Gap's iconic pieces and adding what we do best, which is function. And so I've always been the biggest fan of the hoodies, material, how cozy and soft they are. But I was like, if I could just put a travel hoodie in this and make sure that all these pockets zipped up so when I'm on a plane, I'm not leaving my passport behind and my money doesn't fall out, that would be perfect. And so when we had our first meeting, I literally had my notebook, because I'm a pen to paper girl, and I had all these ideas. Like, I want these pants and I want them to rip off, so if I land and we get to a hot location, I can feel cool, but I need to make sure that all the zippers are, you know, tight and that nothing can fall out. If you were to hang me upside down, that like, I would be good, because when you're traveling, you're always on the move. And I kept saying that to the design team. At some point, they were like, okay, you've had some time to think about this. I'm like, absolutely. But even for that iconic denim jacket, for me, I was like, I just envision it with this really large hood. So if I forget my sleep mask somewhere, I just want to zone out, I have it and I can put it over my face. And we did that. And it was just kind of blending both worlds together. And that, to me, really makes a great collaboration when you can solve these problems.
I think you can see that when we do collabs, we don't do them where our design team does all this work and someone just flies in and spends a half hour and just says, yeah, this color, and then we go do the work.
They may have wished that at a certain point in our collab. I think there was a point where they were like,
we have to draw a line.
Slap this name because this girl is tricky. But no, it was so much fun, and you guys were the best to work with, because with the history that you have, you would think you'd be like, okay, this is just so formulaic. You really let us come in and put our voice into it, and that's what made it really authentic to both of us.
It was the same for us. I mean, there were 5 designers who had 5 different perspectives. I mean, one of them pushed the boundaries with color. I don't know if you guys saw that one sweatshirt. It was like every pop of color you can think of was in one sweatshirt. But Gap said, okay, go. Like, and so I think that's what made it so great too, was that they allowed the designers to really like do their thing. There was one hoodie that they decided to make like a cape. And I had not seen that silhouette of a hoodie in Gap before, but the designers were so amazing at making sure that we stayed true to Gap's code, but that the designer's DNA was actually in the product. That was amazing.
Love that. So that kind of dovetails with my next question. I mean, I feel like every other day there's some kind of brand collab that's crossing my feed. You see them a lot. So what's the differentiator? I mean, what would you say is the formula for a creative partnership that really stands out and is relevant?
I think that with our team, I would say the formula is that there's no formula. We do some that feel a little bit more street. We'd love to have collabs that are particularly targeting the women's fashion consumer and femininity with like a Doen. We have the street, what we did with Palace. We have, and I said before, but new, unexpected, and cool is just a filter for having really good talent and great creative talent. When I see that they're excited, that energy just feeds me. So as soon as we have a sort of a council that gets together and we're constantly talking about different brands, different partnerships, and some just seem like lightning strikes. And we're sitting with Brandice and one of your creatives and in a meeting, and we had a couple of different ideas, and the teams are off and running. Brandice and I were just sitting there like, I guess we got something here. And with Béis and Shay, we're all fans of the brand and their storytelling and the amount of detail. And so that was also a natural, and we hadn't done anything in the travel space, and we thought that would be like a new level of innovation. And you can see how much Shay loves to design our icons. So that's some of the filter we use.
Can I say too, I think the authentic relationships, like I say to Mark all the time, like there are very few brands and leaders that show up the way that Mark does. And the only other place I've really seen it done that way is with Nike. We did a partnership with Nike, and it was totally based on like relationship, what the vibe was, how it felt. And I felt the exact same type of partnership when I went in with Gap. That conversation those are the only two, we've had several collabs, but those two in particular, the energy in the room was like magnetic, and it felt like we were on to something bigger than ourselves. And I think when you approach that as a brand, you approach collaborations with that type of authenticity that's really based around relationships. I feel like the consumer can feel it in the product. Like, I feel like they can feel what went into it in the product, and then you get like these incredible results.
I mean, the creative collaboration process can really be a heady process. Everyone comes in with their own perspectives. So Shay, Brandice, how do you set that process up for success? What does that look like?
I think bringing what both partners do best to the table, that's really what makes the best collaboration in my perspective. I mean, like I say, Gap is known for these amazing essentials, and I think what we are known best for is our functionality. And I think when we can just bring that to what people already love about them and what they love about us, that's when it's not gimmicky, and it's more like, oh, I didn't know I needed this. Like, this is unexpected, but yet it makes sense, And so I think that's really when you can have fun with it and surprise, but also delight the consumers that go to you for that reason and get what they get with you because they love it.
And the way that our company works is we select designers to be a part of collaborations. And we kind of get the design brief from the brand, and we go based on who do we think are designers that are going to bring something unexpected, who we think also are going to fit well with the team, who has a lot of really great character about themselves, and who are going to be fun to work with.
And Mark, you've been building a creative team over the past few years. What does a great creative team look like to you, and what does a good process look like?
I think the creative team is a team that is constantly innovating. They've locked in on the brand codes, so there's a level of trust where we can push the brand and push the energy and sort of know that the brand codes are grounding it. And so I feel really great about the creative team we have, and the trust and the energy and ensuring that there's always a vibe. I mean, it's a vibe check.
Yeah.
In the end, that's what we do. We have to bring energy, and I think Brandice said it well, with the consumer feels the energy. So if we're in this room and we're creating and we're doing something and we think, oh, there's a vibe here, then we know the consumer is going to feel that. And so, I think some of my work with the creative team, I think that when you are stagnant or you're stuck, I'm sure everyone in this room knows that saying of your brief is showing or your strategy is showing. And I think when we are delivering great creative, yes, it checks a couple of boxes that it has to check, but first and foremost, outstanding creative, then the rest follows. And when you do that, you create the flywheel where it energizes the teams. You get more creative talent and more creative output.
So Mark, you mentioned this interesting thing, brand codes. I know it really grounds the creative collaboration process at Gap. Can you talk about what that means specifically and what those are at Gap?
Well, I think that there's a design language, there's a brand vocabulary that when you see it, you kind of know it, but it's not necessarily, it looks effortless. Like we all know something that's great just looks effortless. It looks like it was just designed on its own. And it takes incredible work to go into it. And I think our brand code's about being a modern, American, optimistic brand that sells these icons that we continue to want to reinvent and storytell in new ways is at the heart of everything we do. And I think our collabs work best when, I think Shay said, when we're bringing the best of the DNA of both. So if we have created something that we would not be able to create on our own, and that Béis, for example, would not be able to create on its own, but together we can create, then we are in the winning zone.
And did you have to find that, did you find that you had to reinvent those brand codes as you're reinventing the brand, or was it simply returning to those core ideas that's been with Gap since the beginning?
I think we had to reinvent because every day, brands that evolve look different, but they look the same. They just look new, and they are leveraging the DNA and leveraging the heritage as opposed to revisiting it or sort of returning to it. Like nostalgia is a dangerous territory to be in. I think having an amazing history in the brand that has all this legacy that we can build on, that is magic if we can do it in a way that feels really relevant. And when we're doing these collabs and we're reaching out and delivering new creative, we're able to keep a consumer who's been around and with us for a while, dare I say a couple of decades, and bring the younger consumer as well. So that's where the sweet spot has been. And as a brand, we have always sort of bridged the gap between generations. So it is, that in itself is a brand code.
You're poking at an interesting tension, I think, right there in terms of nostalgia and newness, because I feel like we're seeing a lot of that right now. Gap is bringing back the low-rise jean. We're in this Y2K cultural moment, so it's kind of a fitting place to throw back to, Gap's biggest heyday. Can you talk a little bit about how, in bringing these styles back on the campaign side, you do it with renewed relevance and what that looks like?
Well, most of the jeans and the styles we're bringing are all very new. Even the long and lean that you're referring to is in the campaign, and we had a long and lean 20 years ago. This one is actually, if you put it on, it'll be a different jean. But it harkens back to the jean in the past, but it has better fit technology and so that it feels sort of more relevant for today. And I think when you reinvent things well, they don't look like they've been reinvented. They just look like they're relevant. And I think that's the special sauce.
I also feel like people are now equally as excited to not only see your guys' new drops, but the content and how you drop them. Like now I'm like, wait, what's the next one? Like I'm excited to see the line, but I'm also like, what's the commercial gonna look like? So that's also something that's really cool that you guys have been doing.
It's true, and I think the storytelling is so different that like our campaigns with like Cat's Eye, and then the story that we told with Shay, I mean, it was so fresh and so
I tried to do the dance,
incredible.
and they were like, stop, don't do it. Trust me, we have somebody else coming
We
out
loved
after
it.
you do not want to do the dance routine.
Loved it.
I mean, this idea of relevance is such kind of a vague, amorphous idea, and yet so many brands are chasing it. I'm wondering if we could kind of, as a group, try to define it together. I mean, what does relevance look like to you, and how do you define it for your brand?
I mean, I would say what relevance to me is like what people need in today's day. That's really it. It can come back, it could be nostalgic, it could be futuristic, but relevant to me is like what we're currently wanting as a generation. That's sort of, and that changes day to day, depending on, different circumstances. So we're really just meeting the consumer, myself being a consumer too, where I want to be met and trying to problem solve.
And we're always thinking about it in terms of community. So what are we doing that's actually bringing community together? That's how we create relevance.
Could you expand on that a little bit more?
So everything we've ever done has been about community. We built Harlem's fashion row. I built Harlem from scratch. It was just an idea. But one of the things that was important to me from the beginning is that we had a squad. We had people who were like, I believe in this vision and where you're taking it. And so that was me cooking breakfast on Saturday mornings, bacon, eggs, and biscuits in the very beginning days just to get people to come to my house so I could tell them about what I was doing. And then that grew to brunches, and that grew to lunches, and that grew to bigger events. And so all along our growth, like we did a huge fashion event last Tuesday where we honored Usher and Gap was there and Mark presented an award, but we've grown to that. But when people walk into our room at an event, they're always saying, oh my goodness, it's like this big fancy event, but it feels so intimate. I feel like I'm welcomed here. I feel like this feels like the big hug that I needed. And it's because of that community that we built, a place where people feel like I belong here. So that's, for us, we're always trying to make sure that that type of energy is in everything we do.
And Mark, relevance can also be established through creative collaborations, right? Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Well, I think relevance is 1,000 things that all are working in the same, driving the same direction. I don't think it's any one thing, and I think collabs are absolutely part of our relevance in our story, but I think the quality improvement and being more social first, and then having really great storytelling on our own brand campaigns, and then you have that foundation and layer on really interesting new collabs and storytelling that way, so that you are approaching the consumer on different levels with different ideas. Those are the things that add up to the comments we see, like Gap's having a moment. This is, check this out, this is amazing. This is like the amount of views, and all of those things work together to create relevance. And it doesn't just, you don't just live there and just stay there. You have to continue to earn it every day and continue to drive and continue to provide, to drive newness and new ideas.
And so what are you looking at? What's like your social feed? What are you consuming in order to kind of keep your finger to the pulse in order to stay relevant? And how do you navigate all of that?
Well, my social feed, I can't get out of cat's eye right now because I've clearly watched too much. So now it's
happens to the best.
It's
You know the routine at this point? I mean, I'd hope so.
I could show you, but you can't unsee. I think we want to continue innovating and having these ideas in the brand that are new stories, and so that's what we are. We're in this sort of zone now that we want to continue to drive and continue to push. So with our own storytelling, big ideas, in denim, in sweats, in tees, and things that customers really want from us, and then continue the collab storytelling. So for women's fashion people, we have one coming in a few weeks that I think will be good for you if you like fashion.
I dabble.
Yeah. So I think we're just going to continue this storytelling.
Yeah. You've also mentioned in previous time that we've spoken that relevance really builds from a creative team and a strong creative team. So how do you make those talent decisions?
I think I really think talent drives more talent and begets talent. And so while I like meeting different designers and different creatives, I think that our creatives wanting to work with those people is what fuels this. And in some cases, there are people on our team. In other cases, there are people on the collab partners that we love working with. And in others, there are people that we just contract with, because sometimes it's nice just having some fresh perspective to drive creative and to drive innovation. So all of those. But the most important thing, I think, is to continue to keep our eyes open and talking to people and seeing what's fresh in the market.
Shay, you mentioned authenticity. It's one thing that I really appreciated about your collaboration with Gap. The video felt so authentic to me. It was like I was holding up a mirror for how I get ready to travel, which is just like chaos, organized chaos. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how you build a successful campaign. What are some takeaways we can offer in terms of how that's done in a way that feels really authentic?
I would say making it as relatable as possible, and truthfully, the Gap side was hitting us a lot, like, hey guys, do you have a script? We built this entire set that you asked for, but like we haven't seen a script yet. And the day of, I was literally running out to my partner like, so wait, in the commercial, do you think I should be wearing this or should I be wearing this one? But then how do I show that this one really has a lot of function? And I kept running back and forth, and everybody is just sitting there, and he's like, yeah, that's it. I'm like, this one? You like this one over the last one? He's like, no. This is it. I'm like, what is it? He's like, this vibe, this is what we're doing. Okay, Mark, we're good. Like, we're good. Calvin, we're ready to roll. I was like, what? And I think, and that is truthfully how this happened. That commercial, I mean, we had the set idea, and I kind of knew I wanted to do something in this vein, but that happened the day of. Like, we didn't hand in a script because there wasn't one to be handed in. And I think that's what made it really fun. There were no lines. I just came up with that kind of on the spot. No, but truthfully, it was so real and so authentic to how and apparently so many other people, get ready for a trip. When you're packing, even, screw the trip, getting ready day to day, you don't know what to wear. So that just felt so us. I was able to get across also our line and the pieces I was most proud of. So it worked to both sides. But they really, again, kudos to the Gap side for not freaking out and stressing that, like, they had no idea what I was bringing that day. So thank you.
I actually think the opposite is true on the freaking out. When we played the video, people thought, what's happened? There's an emergency. Something's going on. Why is Mark screaming? It's because I saw the creative and I thought it was so natural and so authentic and so great. I couldn't wait to launch.
Mark, can you expand a bit on the idea of the building blocks of a successful partnership? What does that look like? What are the components that you look for when you're seeking potential partners?
Well, I think we want to be bringing younger audiences to the brand. We want to bring in different audiences. If it's the women's collab, or if it's a street collab, if it's something entirely different. So we want to have them feel different. And again, for I hate being repetitive, but new and having it feel very new. It has to be new. And ultimately being cool and feeling a vibe is really a big deal. If you have great collabs, I mean, if you have great creatives, setting them free is really important. And some of the collab partners we've had, I knew Béis quite well, and Brandice and I had a relationship for years, but there have been collab partners where we've brought up brands, I haven't heard of the brand. Mm-hmm. And then I start to get in and I see the energy and I feel it and I say, let's go, we're gonna go. And almost every collab we do has a million opinions, why, what it should work, why not, and in the end, just like stick to our guns, go, and we know that we can make them great.
Are there any specific brands that you can reference that you didn't know beforehand but ended up being a big success in terms of partnership afterwards?
I think Colt Gaia wasn't really on my radar as much, and I think that was a brand that it wasn't on my radar. I looked into it, and then we had a lot of people like, how is this possibly going to work? And they look, this and that. And then I had enough people on the creative team that said, this is going to be really cool. We can tell this story in a certain way. And I really defended it against a lot of inbound coming at us, and defended it because I thought it was going to be innovative and new, and I thought the way we were going to tell that story. And I think one thing we're getting from the collabs is that they all look so different. I mean, they look very different. Each one looks like a completely different creative hand, and I think that's also what makes it interesting. And I think that's what energizes the creative teams also, is being able to do something totally new. They love hearing, having other creative direction.
And then on the product side, what allows you to create products that resonate with consumers right now? I would imagine that there's similar considerations, but what's different?
We have a philosophy around new made Gap and Gap made new. So we are following trend. What's new? What's happening? What's new? But then let's interpret it, or let's apply it to things that our customer, or things that we're famous for. And Gap made new is, okay, this is something we've done. How do we make this new? And how do we interpret it? So I think we're constantly shopping, we're looking at trend, we're looking at the marketplace, we're seeing the consumers moving. There's a whole bunch of work we've done to be much more responsive and much faster on trend and sort of, fashion with a lowercase f. And those things have all been working for us, but those are the things we're doing, is just to be relevant. And our teams are hungry. They want to see what's next. They're into clothes. They're into fashion. They're into the things we're doing. And I think the consumer ends up feeling that.
We've got a little bit under a minute left. I'd love to hear from all three of you just quickly. What would be your advice to a brand that wants to stand out right now?
Let them free, set them free. I think, honestly, to your point, when you give people that freedom, it's showing that you believe that you partnered with them for a reason. And that's so that you can both shine, but in the ways that you've been this entire time. I just feel like that was one of the best things that Gap could have allowed us to do, was just like, okay, here you go. This is our archive. Take from it what you want. Bring in some new ideas. Go, and we'll make something magic. And that's really what happened.
Brandice?
I would say the brand needs to be all in. I think the reason why it worked for us so well was because it started from the top. We had support from Mark, who's the CEO of the company, to the CMO, to the marketing department, to everyone was all in. And I think that's something very unique to Gap. And that's why their collabs are so successful, because the entire team is on the same page.
Mark, last word.
Authenticity. I think you got to be very real. It has to absolutely tie to who you are and your DNA. And I think especially with technology and with AI, and people just want human connection. You want to see yourself in Shay getting dressed. You want to see that we're who we are, and this is who we are, and you recognize us and you see yourself. And I think people have real strong detectors out there, and I think so authenticity is at the core.
Well, thank you all so much for being
Thank
here.
you,
It's
Lily.
been such a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.